fellow Toastmasters and guests, I would like to start with a poem that I wrote for this occasion, and it is entitled A Toastmaster's Feast. One thing you can count on when Toastmasters meet, whatever else happens, there's plenty to eat. But don't expect cookies or treats of that kind. A Toastmaster's feast is all food for the mind. The Sergeant-at-Arms is the first on the scene, arranging the room, making sure that it's clean. Every fine meal depends on the venue, a fresh tablecloth, silverware, and a menu. My mistake, that's a pen, a meeting agenda. It's time to get started, so sit down with a friend. A gavel comes down with a fine-sounding pop. The dinner is starting, so chatting must stop. The presiding officer goes through his spiel. The Toastmaster's promise is a blessing for the meal. The trusty MC is the next up to bat, introducing the roles of who does this, who does that. Grammarians listen for proper word spice, ensuring our language is savory, concise. The odd counter's job is to hear all that is said, noting uses of fillers like ahs, and bread. The timer marks time with a lyra card, so each dish is perfect, not raw and not charred. Word and joke of the day, each a tasty hors d'oeuvre, served up by new guests who work up the nerve. Our stomachs are rumbling, our appetites peak. It's time for the speakers to get up and speak. The first course is salad. A recent new member serves iceberg icebreaker, a dish to remember. And then to lasagna with rich, meaty flavor, an old family story with emotion to savor. The next dish is wacky. It's fruit shish kebab. The target is humor, and what a great job! Just when you couldn't eat one more small bite, the topic is tables. So maybe you might try one more small nibble, maybe sweets or a cheese. Brief, pithy speechlets, compact as you please. No feast is complete without post-dinner chat. Did you try the fried ice cream? How did they do that? The critics reflect on the fine execution and bold use of words, the fresh elocution that was great use of gestures, seasoned with sage. Your wide vocal range will be all the rage. Perhaps in the future you might just consider less use of words that are sour and bitter. But overall, great! What a fine crafted meal, and for the dues we are paying, this is quite a good deal. At the end of the meeting, the Toastmaster stands, thanking the members with clapping of hands. Gracious and charming, she knew just what to say, to showcase each morsel like a fine Chardonnay. If there isn't new business, then the meeting's adjourned, and it's time to reflect on all that we've learned. This meal was fantastic, but gosh, the best thing of all is no dishes to wash. Sated and happy, we say our goodbyes. Was it really an hour? My, how time flies. Compliments to the chefs. It was truly sublime. I'll see you next week, same place and same time. So reflecting on what I wanted to say today, I was struck by the parallels between preparing a speech and preparing a meal. To be effective, both have to have good organization, they can't be inchoate, and they both have to have appealing ingredients and stylish execution. In both cases, you need to think about your audience. You wouldn't serve pork chops to a vegetarian, and you wouldn't address a group of 5th graders about federal tax policy. In both cases, you want people to feel satisfied and nourished, and to walk away enriched. The more I thought about the parallels between preparing a meal and preparing a talk, the more similarities I discovered. Every great talk begins with a great recipe. Start with a catchy introduction that serves to whet the appetite. Your main points are the meat of the talk. That's the middle part. And the closing summary, that's kind of like handing your audience a doggy bag, something to nibble on later so that they can think about what you've had to say. You might think that following a strict recipe limits creativity, but I couldn't disagree more. If you think about the poem that I told at the beginning, that was a very structured poem. It's anapestic tetrameter, 4 rhythmic units with 2 strong syllables and 2 weak syllables and a strong syllable. And it's the form that Dr. Seuss preferred, so it's sort of fun and lighthearted. That poetic form is really, really structured, but you can put almost anything inside there. So think panini sandwich, where the structure is the bread, but you don't know what's in there until you take your first bite. How do you get people to enjoy eating their vegetables? More often than not, a talk has more than one purpose. It's more than just entertainment. You want to convey something, say education. Anybody who's taught high school or grade school students know that sometimes you will really want to serve green beans, but the audience is more interested in French fries. Sometimes you need to add a little cheese sauce to get people to eat their broccoli, but not so much cheese sauce that you drown the broccoli. You have to know your audience. Just how many pieces of vegetable can you sneak in there before they stop eating altogether? If you can do a really good job at this, you can convince people that carrots are better than Fritos. One difference between a good meal and a truly memorable meal is quality ingredients. We know that fresh tomatoes you get in the summer are better than the pale ones you get in the grocery store in the middle of winter, and making the best use of ingredients sometimes means being flexible and working on the fly. How do you know what the best ingredients are for a talk? Well, as you go about your daily life, you have experiences, you hear stories, and the trick is to notice the freshest details. When you do, it's time to write a speech, right then and right there. We don't usually think about ideas as having a shelf life, but they really do. Think about late night TV. Those jokes that you hear in the monologue at the beginning might not be funny 1, 2, or even 3 weeks from now. Red raspberries don't stay fresh long, so the best plan is to drop everything and make fruit salad. Planning a meal is pretty straightforward. You can walk through the market, flip through a cookbook, get all the things you need, get ready. But what happens when plans change and you have to cook something on the fly? Do you just open your refrigerator, take everything out, mix it all together, and hope for the best? Absolutely not. That would be a mess. You know from your past experience what goes well with what. You have some sort of implicit knowledge of recipes that go well. The same thing happens with an impromptu talk. You have a vast reservoir of ideas, things that go well together, things that you want to say and have said in the past and people have received well in the past. In a pinch, you can always serve scrambled eggs. Preparing a meal is a lot like preparing a speech. When prepared with care, both offer an opportunity to share what we have with others. It's no coincidence that breaking bread is a symbol of acceptance into a community and into a family. I propose that giving a talk is like sharing a meal that only you can make. Happy cooking and bon appetit.